ball hanging, but
Here we go. Welcome to SDR enablement, the most joyous profession of them all, and probably the least trained? No, maybe we won't say that. Just kidding. I'm your host, Nicholas Thickett, and this is.
Jason Stone. Sorry.
Oh, so ladies and gentlemen, caffeine might be a little low. We're also a little bit earlier today, and we've had some interesting developments. Sales Navigator is not cooperating. So we are going to have to go and do a slight change of our show today. So instead of doing a Sales Nav deep dive, which we will do next week, because you're not going to go in home. You already told me we're going to have a good time, so I'm in. So today we're going to talk about how to build trust without using manipulative psychological closing tactics. ABCs, always be closing. It's the way you know that you spray and pray, you do volume, and you have no friends and your family doesn't talk to you. ABC. Anybody wants to go and call me out on that? Try it. But I have lots of experiences learning that way and many experiences in therapy. I mean, conversations trying to not be that way because I'd like to have friends and see my family. So, why is it so important, Jason, that we build trust the right way when we're selling?
Well, the old. I mean, we've all seen Glengarry Glen Ross, right? Always be closing, and that's how I was.
Coffees for.
Yeah, coffees for closers. And I was the same way. But we're born and bred, and like you always push for the close, no matter what the consequence is. That leads to the churn that we talk about. It leads to CAC that people don't calculate. Um, I think you stand out. And I think one of the things I did early on with my technique was, and I've always said that I don't think I've ever really sold anything. I think I've solved a problem. And
Mm,
if you do that, it, then you have clients that will follow you, right? You have folks that will talk highly of you. Um, I got told one time, and it stung like hell, but that you really did a good sales job on me, and I was like, that was early on. I was like, I didn't. I answered all your questions and gave you did what I was supposed to do in sales training, and um, from that point forward, that was one of the things that stuck with me. I was like, I'm never going to be in that position again.
that's
Um,
a good one. I think everybody has one of those moments that are those career defining ick where you're like, this is what I never want to be. And you're like, if this is what it takes to be like on the top, I just don't want to be that. And
yeah,
I think that's a big driver of why we do this show. We love this profession, but a lot of people sling crap because they just want to go and hit quota, but they don't actually dig into what really works. Like you really can't move faster than the speed of trust. It doesn't matter how hard you try. And a lot of the time, when people think about all these like sleazy crap they do to go and get past rebuttals, the only thing they're doing is increasing service tickets. They're creating costs, they're burning their reputation in the market, and that's something you can't get back. And I wish more sellers knew this because I had partners previously in the past that would tell me, "Oh, we had to go and do this to go and build pipeline." And it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's not your reputation that's on the line by doing crap. And if I can't stand up for how I sell,
yeah. What
could
do
be
you
my
have?
last deal.
Right. It was interesting. One of the first jobs I had selling, and then I moved and I went. I wanted the sales job, but I applied to customer success and customer service
Hmm.
first, and kind
Smart.
of worked my way back into sales in that company for that particular reason. Because,
Very smart.
right, well, I mean, I don't know if it was smart or just I kind of I was burned out of sales because of the
Mm,
ABC. Um, but you learned what customers complained about. You learned what their concerns were. You learned what they were sold versus what they should have had. And when you can correct those things and then know where each applies, it kind of reverse engineered that into selling. And I'm with you. I always talk to customer success, every role I've ever been in, to try and figure out where's our sweet spot. And the reality of it is, you don't have to sell $1 million deals. You can sell four $250,000 deals that stick, work, return investment, and you can grow. Now, granted, that typically falls out of the AE's role eventually, but um, you can still get to $1 million in sales without breaking trust. And
You can just help.
yeah, and in this day and age too, that's the one of the biggest things, um, is building trust and standing on something greater than just a sale,
And
because buyers are smarter than they've been.
so much smarter.
They're more educated than they've ever been, and and I just got one this morning telling me all the features and benefits of this new AI cadence and outreach, and it not once addressed a problem. Right? It just sounded like everything else. It was like, but if you're intentional, and that's another word, trust and intent, and not intent the simple fact that somebody downloaded a white paper, they score 30 and they get kicked over their lead, an MQL, the but intentional about your outreach, intentional about what you want to find out, and how you approach the sales process. Because I think one of the things is where we've gotten away from is, we talk about this a lot, the volume play, right? The more volume you have, the less push through you're going to have into opportunities, or good opportunities, because you might create crappy ones to get to a pipeline.
But
But
that's a good point right there. Why does this even be a thing in the first place?
I,
I think it comes down to bad prospecting.
I agreed. I think you again, my math is always, I had a conversation multiple times, but the nearest one to my memory was a couple of months back, and the prospect was telling me, he's like, we need like 100 meetings every 2 or 3 months, and dig
How
in.
many reps?
And they had 4 reps.
And 100 meetings?
Yeah, and but here's how he got to it, was just his simple close rate was 10%, and their goal was 10 net new.
Oh, and this is your post from the other day.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Okay.
like he backs into, and us, and so the first question I ask is like, well, why is your sales close rate? Why is it 10%? That should be the question we're trying to answer right now. And you dig in. We did kind of a diagnostic. Pipeline progression was garbage. Integrity was even worse. And they come to find out they have that polarizing initiative or incentive on sales versus BDRs. BDRs are booking meetings, and sales has got to have a pipeline. And on top of the
Mhm.
pipeline, they got to close one. Well, when you put in 5 bad opportunities because you have to have a pipeline of, 1,000,005, 2x or 3x, whatever it is, it affects your close rate, because those are going to eventually be gone dark or closed lost, right?
Yep.
And if you believe the 10%, and and those reps don't know where that 10% falls. So I could have 20 phone calls before I ever get to a meeting that has any substance to it at all. And what's my prep like on that 21st call? It's not good, right? And so I'm saying all this to say that if you approach, first of all, if you do good prospecting, you put the right people in the right room at the right time, and you approach every call as a diagnostic out of curiosity,
Mm.
you're not only prepping well for that call, but the next call is going to go even better because you're learning. And I've always said I've never been the smartest guy in the room, so I'm always willing to learn. I don't. Do you imagine the weight of being the smartest guy in the room? I couldn't have that on me. But um, so there's a cause and effect, and a lot of people apply the cause to the wrong problem. This is what's, we don't have good sales reps, or they just accept bad math, or, right? And what they don't realize, if you need 100 meetings today, you're going to need 150 in 6 months because you're talking to 100 of the wrong people. Yeah.
Yeah, the never-ending staircase. And this is the thing, every time I've seen a company that, yeah, Molly, I agree. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. You got to change up or you're stuck. And
Yep.
that's the moment too that posting becomes hard, that figuring out what to say becomes hard, because when you think you're the smartest person in the room, you have to be perfect. And that in itself is a scary place to be too. When I've seen companies that have horrible, below average close rates, 9 out of 10 times, I could probably see 99 out of 100 or even higher. If I look at how they prospect, it's based on name on a list, call and justify the interruption. If
Yep.
anybody has above average close rates, what they're doing is what you nailed earlier, is every sales cycle is a diagnostic. And this is kind of where I gamified it and I turned it into a murder mystery, and I make it fun just because I got bored otherwise, but that's just me. Maybe it's my ADHD, I don't know. But
What?
yeah.
Squirrel.
Ooh, shiny. Hey guys. But what I found out is that you have to nail fit, which comes from talking to CS, that comes from talking to other people. You need to really understand what needs to be true 100% of the time, non-negotiable, that makes a sale a good sale. And I'm not talking about you winning the deal. This is the part where most sales screw up. Our jobs should be the gatekeepers of good deals. But because of quota and the bullshit that leadership puts us through, we stop doing that and we just want to go and get pipeline. This is where it falls apart.
Yep.
But when we really go and look at nailing timing and looking at people that have an appetite for change and also have everything they need for us to implement and do a good job, this is how real business is built. And quite frankly, we used to do this when we had books of business because we couldn't afford not to.
Yeah. I think, listen, I think the old days of holding your bag needs to come back.
Hell yeah. I'm
Because,
in.
yeah, because if you can I mean, what's the old saying, right? You can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. And
I
right.
don't know if I've heard that one before.
Well, I'm from the South, so that's, chicken salad's a thing. But it's like when you hand somebody a turd, I mean, it doesn't change that they can't massage it into a beautiful sculpture. It's going to be a turd.
Conversations I never thought we'd have on this show, but
Yeah, well, I mean, we got to lighten it up a little bit, but I think, but if you're responsible for not only the success of that program, but the renewal of it, which in turn is a, you know, effect of the success, then you start to sell differently and you start to approach this differently. Deals become real when they get into pipeline. They just don't become fluff. Um,
I think they should do what they did to us and just have a clawback period. If they cancel their
yeah,
whatever they're buying, if they cancel and they don't keep it for a set period, you have to pay all your commission back.
I mean, I remember those days.
Holy man, it taught a lot more discipline, not just on like how to sell, but also on finances.
Yeah, you have to be really careful. I
And
used to. I
selling the
used to.
biggest thing right away isn't always the best for
No.
anyone. And you knew that whenever, you'd sell a big deal and then you'd have to pay it back.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting learning from the other reps around us. And I think that's the one thing that I'm frustrated I don't see as much as we should, is more sellers, more founders, more people that are in like non-sales sales roles talking about how to build trust, how are they communicating, what is actually going on that's working. Because I think one of the biggest things that changed my mind about sales was becoming a buyer for the first time for something big.
That'll do it.
Holy, and that must, when you stepped into your role, that must have been a huge eye opener when you're looking at your emails and your phone calls and screening and the mental spam filters, because it changes the way you view the world just like in an instant. because people use the same sequences, they use the same conversational transitions, they do a lot of different things. But the thing is, they're prioritizing their agenda, not solving the problem, which I think if we just go back to where you started this whole conversation, you said it's about solving a problem. And the thing, Nate Nasrallah said this one time to me, and I've always loved it. He said, the person that can say the problem best wins. And I still think that's true, because like everything we're doing, if sales cycles are a diagnostic, then all we're doing is gathering all these clues as we go, adding them into that case, and then when we get to the end, we bring it to the judge and jury. I'm like, you know, is it beyond a reasonable doubt that this is the change worth making? And really, that's all we're trying to do. But if we don't sell for implementation in mind, and we're not building trust so that we have some flexibility down the road, that's what saves things. That's why great reps do well, is that they have earned some grace that things can go wrong, because that is life, but they know that they can get through it. Years ago, I had said I only judge people on 3 things. I never actually thought it would apply to a sales as much as it does today. But do you do what you say? Do you do it well? Do you do it on time? 3. That's it. And if you think about that from the buyer's perspective, are you trying to feed me crap? Are you trying to understand me, understand what I'm going through? Are you trying to help me figure out who else needs to be involved so that we can make this, like, are you making my life easier or harder? And at the end of the day, are you going to go and help me look good, or are you going to burn me just to go and get a deal?
Yeah.
Like, what's your motivation? And even though we might not enter a deal with that, distinctly in mind, it shows by our actions and our choice of words.
I agreed 100%. You know, the biggest one on that list for me is like, do you do what you say?
Yeah,
And
80% fail that one.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. One of the ones that I love seeing, you talk about manipulation and not building trust, is, and I just got 2 of them today, was, we only have 2 spots left. The false scarcity.
Scarcity.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And I got 2 of them today. One had 2 spots, the other one had 4. So I've got time on the 4. Uh, so I'll hold off until it gets to 2. But yeah, I mean, it's hugely important to get through. Listen, we sell about 65% of the people we talk to, right? But we don't have 100 conversations,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not a fit. And there are things that we look at, triggers, which is one of the things we'll cover in Salesforce, Sales Navigator. But there is a Freudian slip, but because we do a diagnostic, we talk about the problem, we understand what and there are people that just look, if they've had, if they have an SDR team, they're hitting their number, they've got good pipeline, they're closing at 25-30%, we can't help them. Not unless they're trying to break into a new market, they want to test messaging, then we can draw up something. But core function, we can't help them, and we have to be honest about that. Otherwise, that person is gonna, you can manipulate them and sell them something, and they come in, and the first 60 days is pure hell. And because they're not getting what they expected, we're not doing what their team's doing, we're doing it differently. We didn't do a good job of stating what it is we actually do and how we do it. So, we really focus on the people that, and the other piece of that 65% is there's not fluff.
Mm.
Right. So it's like, we don't move things to, this is another thing. Like, I've seen folks move one before the call's ever executed. It's already an opportunity because it fits the ICP, and it's just an average contract value thrown in there. And the close date, this is my favorite, is the end of, their sales cycle, the 30 days. Like, if their sales cycle 6 months and it happened January 1st, the close date 6/30. It's like you got all of that. It's incredible. That's a hell of a timeline. Um, and then it gets pushed another 30 days and another 30 days. But we do our diagnostic and we believe there's a fit. And inevitably, and we're not perfect. We're not going to sell everything that that is a true opportunity. But if once that discovery call happens, if it's not a fit, if there's not a gap that we can cover, then we say, look, this isn't obviously not the right time, not the right fit. Here's some suggestions, right? It's like the Miracle on 34th Street. We're sending them to Gimbals if
But you're starting with an assumption. You're proving it true or false, and you're looking for specific things.
correct.
Where what I hear a lot of salespeople do when I listen to gong calls or when I go and do role play or even just sit in meetings is they get, the happy ears
Yeah,
because they hear something that a product or a feature fits. But what I don't hear very often is impact statements. What is the cost of inaction? Is it costing them anything today? What if they do nothing? If that isn't frequent and if it isn't expensive, that's a deal that you're going to chase forever and waste your time because it's not in their best interest to do anything right now. And I notice this too with deals that die on the final yard line is that there is no business case
yeah,
or the numbers they chose in their business case aren't something they can actually control or aren't real. So like even for you, like I could see your business case changing a few different ways because it might be okay, we're not getting enough at bats. Okay, well then we need to go and get more solid meetings with intention. Or hey, we don't really understand what our market needs. Oh, okay, this is more market research, so we're going to go and figure out who in these companies we need to work with, what specific types of companies, and what type of messaging, what's top of mind. But this is the thing I just don't see in a lot of companies is they don't evolve this business case to suit, that diagnostic that they're doing. And so when they come to the end of this, it's either begging or pleading or sleazy tactics.
yeah.
But Jason, we if you don't close today, we're gonna have to wait 2 months because we're gonna be over in implementation schedule. Hmm, too
Yep.
bad, I guess.
Yeah. I guess we'll wait 2 months. Um, it's interesting, and part of it again, it is the when you play a volume game, what's the one thing you need for volume? A big list, right?
Big
And
list.
that goes back to, what you and I have talked about digging into the list, which was the intent of this episode. Um, but we pivoted like you do on a sales call. Uh,
When
the
technology works just the way
Yeah,
it's intended.
but the interesting thing was I was talking to a prospect a couple of weeks ago, and the list was 2,500 strong, and it's like that can't be my argument. And again, you have to be really comfortable and sure to do these things, but I think other people appreciate it to get to a point of whether that's a yes or no, we should do something. But it was like that can't be your ICP.
Well, they're probably the people too. They have a list of 2,500, and you're like, "Show me your messaging," and they're like, "Oh, it's the same messaging for everyone."
Every
Huh?
single Yeah, every
Huh?
single person.
And you're saying it's not working?
Yeah, strange.
Fascinating.
But digging into the list, right, to the point is like, and this gets to the point of manipulation, because when you're not talking to the right people for the right reasons, you have to manipulate something to get traction. And whether knowingly or unknowingly, or whether you're just following suit and delivering the message that's given to you as to the message to deliver. But we talked through it, and we talked about triggers. When do they win? When do they lose? And one of their triggers was the reason they lost was when a CFO has been in seat for 10 plus years. This was fintech. So he's like, they, typically if they've been with a place 10 plus years, they're on the twilight of their career. They're not lifting up, they're not doing heavy lifts. They
They're
don't want to do it.
retired in position.
Yeah. So they don't want to do anything that disrupts their day to day. So if you have that information, do you want to guess what that list of 2,500 went to when you take out all the CEOs that have been there for 10 plus years?
Could have been a low number.
At 800.
2,500 to 800?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It was insane. And keep in mind, I mean, there's a lot of regional banks, community banks. There's things in there kind of make sense when you look at it, especially when talking about regional banks, right? The guy in, Jasper, Georgia has been CFO of that bank he's not leaving. There's not another bank. So he's there for a while. But like there was a lot of things we could peel out of there. And then you start looking at the different regions, the different positions, and you start to layer on top of all of those pieces, and then they get down to a list of 500 that are prime, that are really, really perfect. But that's the thing that, and again, that was a free exercise that I was like, well, they ended up not doing anything with this, but now they have a better list. But that's okay.
And they
Because
understand a little bit better, which does the whole industry, raises it up a bit.
hopefully, right? Hopefully they don't go back and throw the 2,500 back in there. But it's again, intentional effort is such a big thing that everybody misses, and you have to be intentional about being intentional. And
We're getting really meta now.
yeah, yeah, right. It's so, um, but manipulation does the exact opposite of what you want it to do. It's designed to bypass the prospect's trust, not earn it. I mean, that's by definition. And
And you got to remember, all those tactics were designed with traveling salesmen that never saw people again.
right.
It's like I was joking with a friend. He's a bit of a shit, let's be honest. And he doesn't tip anywhere, and it drives me nuts. And he's like, "Why do you get so mad and like go and tip the lady after I don't?" And I'm like, "Because I come here all the time and I appreciate the service I get." So you know what he took that as? Only tip where you plan on going back.
Yeah. Got it.
It's like, okay. I guess we're 50% better than where we started, but
Yeah.
okay.
You've made progress. But
But
in that vein, I tip because I don't want to do that job, and I respect and
mm,
I appreciate the people who do it.
so that's a good tip leading into what I've noticed with good sellers versus average sellers is that they're solving for implementation. And most of those sellers don't want to be the one putting out fires after they sign the contract,
Correct.
which is a good motivation. Maybe not the most honest motivation, but it is good motivation. And I
Yeah.
think that if you actually worked backwards, that's why I wish they did more deal reviews. And you look, where does a deal fall apart? And this is where we can start looking at where did the manipulation come in and where do we lose trust because we weren't being honest about what was actually happening. And this is where my first experience being a buyer really played in because they kept talking about features, but they never understood the actual use case. When they talked about when they were trying to close me, they were trying to close me based on words, but I didn't understand the business case. Therefore, they're like, well, it's a good investment. Based on what?
Right. Based on whose math?
Yeah, and what math?
Yeah.
And that was one thing I saw. But the other thing that I saw is that so many times companies and sellers actually put them in a spot where it's us versus everyone else or us versus the buyer because we don't have a lot of, especially when you're selling something that's expert service based where you need knowledge, you
Yep.
need to understand how it's implemented, you need to understand some of the fine details to make sure that it gets done well. Those deals, we got to be really careful because they have nothing to compare against because they don't have our knowledge. And this is where I see a lot of reps that are like buy or nothing. And so a lot of the time they lose the status quo. What I've seen really good reps do is they give them options. And the reason they give them options is more psychological than anything else is because we want to start talking about what is the best fit for them, not
Yeah.
which product do you want to buy. And it seems like a subtle change in words, but it's a huge psychological shift when we start talking about, okay, yeah, this is something that is worth doing, but what is the best fit for my scenario? And this is where I see a lot of reps fall apart because they try to do demos and they try to just flash and dash, but they haven't done this diagnostic investigative work to realize what are the numbers they can change and where does that show up in their day to day. So that's what I need to go and solve for. And that's the problem, that the big problem that we're solving, but they're focusing on just the solution and how they're trying to make the solution fit instead of understanding how the problem shows up and adapting it to the solution. And I don't know, it sounds like a meta play on words, but it makes such a huge difference as a buyer that if I know I can trust you because you're going to take care of me, that's a huge difference.
You're right. I mean, the other thing too that like we listen to thousands of sales calls because we book them, we record them, we transcribe them, and run them through diagnostic. And one of the things that I find extremely interesting, and
Do
this
tell.
is this goes back to what we talk about, like sales leaders. I think there's some good sales leaders out there, but they also get manipulated and shoved into a math homework, and and they don't get a chance to fully implement what they need to implement because results, like what if you results are yesterday. But I find it interesting, and what one of the things I've always done, it doesn't make it right. I just think it makes it significant. It increases your trust when you and I don't ever hear this. Like, why wouldn't we talk about when an implementation or engagement fails? Why wouldn't you tell the client, like, this is where we will fail? Because they have to sometimes if they self-identify, the trust goes through the roof. And if they have one of those entities alive and well in their organization, then it's not a blind spot.
And
And
it's
they
also it's something that changes over time too,
correct.
which you just don't see very often. Because like for me, and I was telling you this before, I never made managers come to training sessions. And then I had a couple implementations just go a little haywire on me. I'm like, well, what the hell happened? I've never had this happen or never had like results like this. Like, what changed? Management, misaligned incentives, and them using different metrics that just push different activities or change the way they acted. So freakonomics at play. I can't win against that.
No, that's a lose-lose.
But I could keep losing if I wouldn't have taken the time to reflect, like you had said, and then made that part of my criteria going forward.
Yeah,
Little baby steps that make all the difference.
it is. It's and we've done it to ourselves to some degree as a sales, you know, industry. I've looked at folks, and again, it goes back to just bad sales math. When people look at a team, especially like emerging demand is where I think it took place when things were popular. 10 reps, you sold $10 million. Every rep can sell $1 million. That's how I walk into my quota. So to get to 20, I got to hire 10 more people. And it's writings on the wall that it doesn't matter. I can get 10 people from anywhere. And we don't teach them the right way. We don't coach them the right way. And they just go in and start hot shotting these things. And then they roll into another role. They morph into a a new position, whether leadership or a new AE position at a new company, and they don't learn. They just keep doing.
Yeah.
It's like we have cannibalized our own industry to some degree because we have allowed we've allowed sales to become a math problem instead of an engineering problem.
I think that's a big part of it. I think the other part is there's just too many options. And
Yeah.
there's too many different ways to solve the same problem. But this isn't what gets talked about. Why? The question that we should be asking is why has it become so hard to buy? But every time, what do we hear people talk about? It's impossible to get someone on the phone. It's impossible to go and contact someone. It's impossible to get a deal started. But if we reverse engineered it and start asking the actual tough question of why is it so hard to buy, it becomes way more clear. Like there's just way too much. And please, like anybody in the chat, throw in any questions or if you have any scenarios you want to discuss. But what I see all too often is people are sellers are too risky to go to bat with. They haven't done their research. They're showing up empty-handed. There's too much political, like career political capital that I have to use in order to go and take this and move it. But there's no guarantee that it's going to go forward. And if I do, there's a fear of messing up, not the fear of missing out. That, it's a lot of executives right now with how the world is going are in cover ass season. They are genuinely concerned about losing their job. Some of them go into survival mode and they go and blame everyone else. Other people just kind of go and hide away. They go and focus on their unit economics and their volume. But we need to start answering, why is it so hard to buy? And so like I was talking to a lady that sells learning and development courses. And she's like, well, my biggest competitor is X. And I was like, is it? Well, yeah. I'm like, is it not YouTube? Why YouTube? I'm like, well, I'm thinking of if I wanted to learn something and I didn't want to pay, where would I go? Now, like if I was talking to her again, the other thing we'd be looking at is generative AI. You can learn just about anything there. But what she would need to do is figure out why, for what type of person would they not want to do that? Like what type of buyer would pick something else? And this is the thing that I think we need to start doing more as sales leaders, is having these tough conversations, stepping in our buyer's shoes and understanding where these stupid friction points happen. Because there's always going to be friction, but what are those little things, right, that we can adjust for? Like I was talking to a rep the other day. I'm like, is picking up the phone first the right option? He's like, well, yes. I'm like, but how often do you get someone on the phone and they don't understand what you're talking about? Well, yeah, because what you sell is highly complex. And where you usually get success, based on what I've seen, is when people have a general understanding of what you do, which is a very small portion of the companies. Well, what am I supposed to do? Go get your marketing team to send them content, start engaging with people and do that at scale, social sell. And then watch for triggers. And then when they're ready, they raise their hand. People do. They're like, okay, if they trust you and you're their go-to for information, they always come back when they're ready, if they feel like they can come back to you and if you still have their trust.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that one thing that I've done, and it's just, again, I think curiosity is probably arguably one of the best traits in a
It's a
salesperson.
superpower
Yeah.
for sure.
It just wanting to understand and wanting to be part of the conversation. Um, you know, you could get on Reddit, you could get on Bravado, Sales, LinkedIn, and get in these communities and answer questions honestly. Give your feedback, give your thought process. Don't sell, right? And that's where they miss. And we were working with a company that a majority of their leads came through posts, communities, and social media.
That's
And
impressive.
yeah, it's a small group growing, but when we reviewed some of the things they were saying, and as it started to pick up, it became more salesy, right? It became pitch first. And because they got to the point where they were like, okay, this is winning, this is working, and we need more revenue. So now start going to the next step. Without, what they didn't realize was the foundation of what they did originally was being helpful and curious. They were out there saying, curious, why are you asking that question? And then they would answer, well, here's what we've seen. And offer a conversation. Did that conversation happen the next day? No, it might have happened 2 months later, but that residual was there because they built it in a trusting fashion. But then when you get to 3-4 months down the road, and it's a new player, same problem, we can solve that. Call me. And it's like, well, they're not calling me. I wonder why. Well, I mean, you know, huh?
Hmm.
Think about this for a second. But again, curiosity is genuine. You can't fake it, in my opinion. I don't
No.
think I don't think, and if you're trying to fake it, it comes across as manipulation and disingenuine. It's not something you can fake. And
Sometimes it's also just confusing because they wrong tone of voice too, and you're like, why are you asking this?
yeah, yeah,
You
and
don't seem like you care at all. So why are we going down this rabbit hole?
and we have this innate belief that we always have to be right, right? And I think that that's part of the reason I always encourage my reps to, when I was running teams, like, ask a question you don't know the answer to. Be vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you're genuinely curious about their business, don't ask how many sales reps they have, because you can get that information, or at least directionally correct, right? Don't ask about when they were founded. Don't ask about all the stuff. You can find out all that stuff, and it's irrelevant. Curiosity, that's fake curiosity. Just getting them, the old get them to talk about themselves. That's like, well,
Yeah.
that's not a trigger for that. That's just public information. I mean, you've got to, it's lost art, to be honest with you. And I think manipulation it starts in the prospecting, which is another reason why a lot of prospecting fails.
But I think the thing that people don't realize is good prospecting builds momentum that can carry you through some of the crap that comes up.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is I want to throw it out to the chat, and because we get these comments all throughout the week, it's not just while we're doing the live show too, but what is something that a seller does or you've had an experience with that wowed you? What was that hell yes sales experience that just caught you off guard? I can give you a simple one. I went back to a restaurant and I hadn't been to in a while, and I guess I left a toque. And so my hat I had just stuck on the chair, left it. The waitress that had served me last time flagged me down, brought me my toque, and said, "I'm just so glad to see you again." Such a little thing.
Yeah. Well, I just talked to one of our clients, and this is one, not it's not directed at me. It was his experience, but I thought it was one of those where you're like, holy shit. He went through a car wash. He regularly goes to this car wash, and it had ripped his windshield wipers off.
Oh shit.
So he went to the car wash and was like,
I would
hey,
have been quite the experience.
yeah. And he's like, this happens, and I come here a lot, and regularly, and they were like, sorry, it's not covered, we're not doing anything. You're like, well, I mean, look, I come here at least twice a month. Sorry, can't you just give me a discount the next time, or maybe give me a free month? Or sorry, we're not doing
Something.
anything. So he took it to the dealership, completely unrelated, to get them replaced. And the dealership called him and said, hey, your car's ready, and just as a note, we're really sorry this happened to you. We're not going to charge you for the replacement.
Wow. So
Yeah.
the dealership really think
And
of the
he's like,
goodwill that you've earned just on that.
he's flat out, I'm not going to another dealership ever.
Well, and like what you had said earlier, like if you do that in prospecting and you let them know, hey, you guys don't have this role and normally like this happens, so I wouldn't recommend doing this because it doesn't usually work in this type of scenario. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
You earn the same reaction. You wow people by being honest. Pause for a moment. How ridiculous is that statement? How did you earn trust? You wowed them with your honesty. Like,
Yeah.
and it's so simple, but I think I wish more sellers knew this because they learn to lie. And me having ADHD, I have to be very focused, sentence to sentence, or I forget what the hell I'm talking about, let alone what lie I told.
Yeah. What
But
was it?
if you remember the lies that lead to bad implementations, it should be your incentive just to sell good deals, because then you're just looking for the right things. And if you lean in with a little curiosity and make it good conversation, no one's going to go and lean away from that, because especially if the timing's right. But
Yeah.
it's all these things. Is when we start using manipulative tactics, we're trying to justify our existence. That is what it comes down to. We're trying to justify the interruption when we prospect. We're trying to justify moving a deal forward. Hey, Jason, just following up. Hey, Jason, just following up. Hey, just bubbling this up to the top of your email in case it got lost. Hey, Jason. Hey, I'm going to start calling your friends and family now because I can't get a hold of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Answer A, are you on a beach somewhere? B, leave me alone. C, I mean, those were the ones that got me. But what was it? Mark Twain said, right? If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
He
That's the
also said, "Better first learn the truth and twist it as you please." So maybe not. He may not the best person to go and use. But
no,
my
but
favorite one that he used to say is, "Better to be thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt."
oh, that's
I
true.
wish some executives would take that one to heart.
Yeah. But that's the but again, and we're not thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead either. You know, it's like the
Mm.
old remember, and it still happens, I'm sure, to some degree, depending on the industry, but you remember when you would hire the Rolodex, right? Got a rep that had a Rolodex. We have no idea what state that Rolodex was in. We have no idea how trustworthy that rep was. That's why I never prescribed to that particular tactic, but if like if you're not thinking a step ahead, then these are the things that happen, which is like, am I ever going to talk to this person again? Right? Do I ever have a reason to call this company again? This guy's connected to 20 people that I know. Like those are all, things that I look at when I have conversations. And so the truth does not get distorted. Eh, The and I think that's a huge piece of people's lens when they look through. If it is a look, I've sell this, I hand it off, I'll never talk to that guy again. I mean that there's a there's no negative consequence for that individual in that particular role, and they're not thinking far enough ahead to where the consequence actually does take place.
I'm gonna write this in the chat. These are the things I solve for. So first thing I always solve for is the appetite for change. I don't think anything's an actual opportunity until there's a proven appetite for change, but I need someone with some authority that can sign off on this and champion it to say, yeah, actually, this is important right now, and this is something we want to do. I'm glad you reached out when you did. To me, if there's no appetite for change, and if it's only people in the trenches that we see this all the time, they're like, yeah, we're not happy, but management's not going to do anything. That's not an opportunity.
No.
That's something you should keep on your radar,
Yeah, because
but
if
it's not an
management changes,
opportunity.
right? If management changes,
But this is how all of the type of stuff in prospecting we talk about. You have to go and meet them where they're at. What is the story they're telling themselves? And this is how you do it, is these types of conversations. Fuck, now we got AI. Go role play with AI. You don't even have to worry about embarrassing yourself. Like, go talk to AI, ask it. Hey, act as the CFO. Hey, act as the CEO. What are the questions you're going to give me pushback on buying this? In this scenario, what are the things that I'm missing? And you'll get something. The other part is the ability to change. And this is both finances and resources. The biggest thing I've noticed is people might have the finances, but they don't always have the resources, and in particular, the right people to do the work. So I always solve, and this is because of past experiences, plus change and working for the banks, doing turnaround work. But what is their ability to change? Can they actually get it through? Do they have the right people to support me on this? So what are we trying to minimize in terms of risks? What are we trying to manage? What are we trying to mitigate? Like, what are the risks that are going to come up? I've had it where we knew there was a funding round coming up. So we were really concerned about the costs and how they would show up on their EBITDA statement, because if it dipped down a certain rate, they were going to lose premium interest rates, and it would change their funding slightly. So it was going to dilute their shares, and it wasn't going to be good. But these are the types of things, when you understand, that leads to that ability to change. Those are, to me, if you can nail those two pieces, sales is never an issue, because you're not selling, you're helping.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's again why I don't ever look at what, BANT and strongman and all of those things, because budget and authority are the wrong, that qualifies the account, right? It doesn't make it an opportunity. It's, if an organization that believes their current state is unacceptable, that's an opportunity.
I think BANT's hilarious, because if you look at the origins of BANT,
Bant, Bant is the bane of my existence.
well, where did sales originally originate as a profession that people pushed? It was during the Industrial Revolution, when there was a glut of product they had to sell for the
Yeah,
first time ever, because they had mass machinery that they could create more than they needed. That's when sales started. So BANT was based on order taking for a manufacturing facility. Do you have budget? Do you have the authority? Is the need there? Need didn't really matter to
no, you
them.
had the need because you were
Yeah, you called.
yeah, right.
So do you have the budget? Because we're not going to go and take you on credit. Do you have the authority to do this, or do I need to be talking to someone else instead of wasting my time? And when do you want it delivered? Like, or when do you want to come pick it up? Like,
Yep.
that's the origin of BANT. That was before people could go and learn about new products. That was before there was a glut of the same products from several different manufacturers all over the world. But this is the issue, is we got to really, really, and I wish people would take this to heart. It has never been harder to buy. Fuck selling. It's never been harder to buy.
Agreed.
And if we don't help people navigate that, understand who their villains are in their company, understand like what's going on in the market, understand what keeps them up at night, not the stupid, frivolous, fluffy shit, but actual stuff that not only if they signed, what are they worried about after if they signed? If we can't address all those things, this is why buying is getting harder. This is why sales is getting the brunt of it. And I'll say sorry on behalf of all the salespeople, because leadership is pushing us because they don't have strategies, they just have numbers, which is what you had kind of talked about at the start of this, Jason.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, if Sales Nav gods will go and work to us, and Microsoft can keep their shit working next week, then we will go and do a Sales Nav deep dive, and we're going to share screens and go through it together. So I don't know if it'll be me or you, but we'll go through, and we're going to go and show you, walk you through what it takes to actually build a good list, and how to go and use Sales Nav to go and show you how the messaging actually solves itself. What are the different tips and tricks to go and allow you to show up at the best time when people are ready, and really focus on that buyer's experience to remove the friction by showing up in a way that matters. And yes, it's all with Sales Nav. Is Sales Nav the best tool ever? No. But it is a very effective tool, especially if you're social selling on LinkedIn. And then really, it's hard to go and beat LinkedIn when it comes to B2B sales.
It is. Yeah, I agree. We couple it with a few different things, but I think it's to put a list together, it's top notch.
Okay. Parting words, my friend. What would you like the wonderful people to know before we leave today?
Sell on your own terms and not
Mm,
a quota. I know that's hard. It's easy for me to say. It's harder to do. But I do believe that if you find yourself in positions of, you know, there's no silver bullet when you're handed a meeting. right? And go back to BANT, joking. And again, I've had folks tell me that, well, we want to know what BANT is before we get that. We haven't. You have to earn the right to ask for budget. So you don't do that on your first 30 seconds, and you don't do it while you're booking a meeting. So we give them ant, which, and then they give them can't, because they can't finish the deal. But no, it's, if you just be be honest with yourself, and
Oh
be
God.
honest with the prospect, and do a diagnostic. If you do that, and be prepared for every call. Don't Every single call is precious, and if you think it's precious to you, think about what Nick just said, that it is hard as hell to buy right now, and there is intent on their behalf if they are taking a call. Whether their the intent is to disqualify you or not, I don't know, and you don't know, but what I can guarantee is if you show up ill prepared, you will get disqualified, no matter how great your product is, or service. So, you know, approach everything with the goal to be intentional and build trust. And it, you know,
Can't go wrong.
yeah, things might move slower. Things might take, you might get in the weeds a little bit more, but you'll learn more. You'll be better prepared as you go forward, and you'll have a customer for life if you do the right thing. So,
Amen. I think my only piece of advice is if you take appetite for change and ability to change, and you go and mix in the questions. Why change? Why now? Why you? How sure? How much? And then there's one, my coffee is catching up to me. How sure? How much? How long?
how long? Yeah.
If you can answer those questions or create your own, turn it into a game. Instead of checking check boxes, treat it like an investigation, because there's many different sales within a sale. Then it also allows you to better score your progress as a professional seller, to know where you're losing traction and where friction is coming up. Do that. And it also allows your manager to help train you, bring that information to them, help yourself, advocate for yourself. And it's 2026.
My favorite part.
It is no longer acceptable to suffer in silence. If you need help, reach out. Sales is a tough job. We go through a lot of shit. We have a lot of different skills that we have to master. And even though it feels like there's a lot of it is a team sport. And we are here to support you. Get in our comments, get in the DMs, join the shows. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We are here to support you. We want to be a resource. And we can't say thank you enough for joining us and subscribing. And we can't wait to see you next week, where we do our Sales Nav deep dive.
Yep. And if I'll put this out there, if anybody has messaging they're not sure of, send it over to me. I'll take a look at it and kind of rewrite it in the form that that is more above the noise line. You can't sound like everybody else. So, and if you want to, quick stab at it, if you're talking about yourself, features and benefits in your messaging, change it.
There you go. You guys heard it. Take advantage of it. And until next time, happy selling, friends. Take
See
care.
ya. Bye.